Hi everybody, this is Heidi and this is my project for our ELA methods class. I decided to create a Weebly to outline my project. Here we are at the opening page. I've divided it by overview and plan, objective, connection to the standards, learning targets. Then there are areas, vignette, song, or poem are the options kids have, and then they'll also be doing a web recording, and then finally my assessment. Let me take you through the overview and plan page first. I'll attach the website so that you can look at this on your own as well. I decided to, this is for 8th grade. I teach humanities, which is a combination of social studies and writing, and I decided to focus on a moment. And the questions that really this unit focus around are: how can we best capture a moment? How can we use that moment to share something about ourselves and what is important to us? How can we bring that moment to life so our readers can feel as though they were there? I created an overview for students that allows them to see really what the purpose is. It reiterates some of the pieces from the top, and I really talk to them about, my hope is this narrative writing will be something that I'll do throughout the year, and I'm really hoping that they're going to have a chance to truly develop their voice, their ability to effectively focus on a moment, topic, or idea, and their ability to use sensory details to bring a moment to life. I really want to focus on a moment because it's more of a storyline as opposed to a story, where there's not a beginning, middle, and end like there is in a story, but a storyline that's clear, it's focused. I think sometimes doing a shorter piece for kids is difficult. This piece will be probably much like the NPR piece, This I Believe, which is about 350 words, is really what my expectation is for kids with this. I'd like to give them a good deal of time in class to work, and I'd like to be able to get around in conference with them to work on the different pieces. I've broken this up into 3 pieces. The first piece here is that together we're going to look at 3 different types of text: vignette, song, and poem, and I'm also going to use video as a 4th type to help them figure this out. And I'm using video because we are doing web recording, so I want to give them some examples. I think it's really important to use lots of rich examples with them. The key things I'd like them to work on are determining the main point of a text, analyze the deeper meaning in a text, identify aspects of a text that reveal the author's voice, and to discuss the difference between a story and a storyline, as I talked about a little bit before. The second part is that once we've studied these type of texts together, the students will have the opportunity to create their own vignette, song, or poem. Each vignette, song, or poem, no matter what option the kids pick, needs to be focused on a moment, topic, or idea, needs to employ a clear voice, and utilize sensory details to bring a moment to life. I also let kids know that regardless of what they pick for a format, they also need to use this as an opportunity to give the reader a sense of who they are and what is important to them. And I let them know that we'll be working on this sensory detail work together as a class. Finally, the student will take their revised vignette, song, or poem and create a video or audio, much like I'm doing right now, which is why I picked this format so I could practice a little bit with it if kids want just their voice. I know a little bit more about how to do a recording. They'll take that piece and put it, into an audio or video, and that will be the final piece. So then we get started. So I've created the rest of this. I've broken up this unit by day. There are 15 days in total, and you can take a look at this when you go to the website itself, but I'll just give you a little bit of a picture of what a day looks like. I start by really looking at, I have a focus question for each day. I start with looking at voice and what is important to the students, and then we move on to looking at how do different texts use words differently, and really that word choice, really wanting to expose them to song, poem, and vignette so they can make a good choice for themselves. So I'll use these different models and I'll show you where those are on another page. So this really just outlines what we're going to do each day in class and in homework. Sometimes there are files attached. Here, for example, for students, I really want them to make sure they do some pre-writing. For some kids, using a graphic organizer will be helpful to them, so I have one available for them. I like to give kids choice in terms of how they like to do pre-writing. Different formats work for different kids in a different way. I try to make sure that on days like peer conferencing that I give the kids a bit of a focus so that they can work with their classmates on what things that they need to really focus on. And then continuing moving through, I create a checklist also for the students so that they can double check their work before things are due to make sure they've done the pieces that they need to. For their vignette, song, or poem, I told them in the beginning, don't worry about conventions, just get writing. And then I'm reminding them here, as you can see, that they really need to make sure that they take care of those conventions. And then they turn things in. We use e-backpack at my school, or rather we will be next year. And I'm excited about this because the way that I can give kids feedback right on their pieces, I can mark them up, and we have a digital copy of this so that they have it, I have it, and there's no kind of paper getting lost. And once they're done with their written portion, we'll focus on the web recording. I want to make sure to really use the kids because I think that they're going to be the experts in this to tell me what they know about it, and then make sure we're all on the same page with that. They'll get going on their web recording. It will give, and it's really more like web planning, thinking about their voice, tone, all of those pieces. Gives me time to give some feedback on their written piece. I'll hand back their written piece to them, and just with feedback, no grade this time around. And then you'll see on day 13 we look at what it means to revise, and we'll talk a bit about that. I'll do a mini lesson or lessons in the areas that it showed that they need some work. The kids will have time to work on revising, recording. I'll be able to get around and conference with kids. I'll need to remind them that it's really important that they revise their vignette before they do their final draft of their web recording, because my expectation is that they will use their final draft in their web recording. And there we are. So here's, hope I'm not making you dizzy scrolling back up. I apologize, there's no quick way to get there. I then move on in the web page to my objective, and I've broken it up with objective, rationale, connection to the standards, and then learning targets. I do have an above and beyond challenge for kids who are ready to be pushed just a little bit further. I think it's important to have those graphic organizers for kids who need them. I also think it's important to give options for challenge. I then have my vignette, song, and poem page, looking at which format they'll choose. There are resources here where we'll look at the definition of a vignette. I have a sample from House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros that we'll look at. For songs, we're going to look at The Day That I Die by the Zac Brown Band, which is actually the reason that I picked this whole thing, is I really want kids to look at what's important to them and what do they want to achieve in their lives and how can they use this piece to really do that. I'm also going to use a song by a local band, Martin England and the Reconstructed, which actually one of my best friends is in this band, and I love their music, and the kids are going to have an opportunity to talk about music they like and why so that we can analyze it. I'm going to use this song as a model. And then finally we move on to poem. Again, I have definition. Then we're going to look at an excerpt of Song of Myself by Walt Whitman. And then I have this TED Talk by Stephen Burt of why people need poetry. And we're going to look at that, and really it's just looking at the way people use words, how they can use words, how we use words effectively, and really not manipulate, that's not the right word that I want, but how can we use words to achieve the things that we want to. I then have a section for web recording, where we'll look at a couple of different blogs. This piece on the technology of storytelling, this really connects to that idea of web recording. And then John Green, who is the author of The Fault in Our Stars, which is very popular amongst middle school kids right now, has a blog of his own. And I really want to look at that. And he's very energetic, and to look at what that effect is. And then I have a site that has some tips for web recording. I also have a couple of other web recordings if kids want to go to look at those on their own. Finally, I have my assessment page. As I said, initially kids will turn in their pieces. I'll assess them based on a rubric, but they won't get a grade. And so what I would like to do this is an option of what I could use, but I plan to have the class have a discussion about what really should go in to a vignette, song, and poem. What do they have in common? What should it look like? So they'll really be coming up with the standard. And then I also have one for the web recording, and I'll use the same process. Kids will not get feedback the first time. They'll get feedback the first time around, but not a grade. And then they'll have the opportunity to revise, get their piece back, and then we'll move on from there. Again, because this is an ongoing piece for the whole year, they'll be able to use feedback at the end of this to continue on and continue to develop their skills. I hope all of this makes sense, and I look forward to looking at all your projects as well. Thanks.